Doctor, you don't look like Satan to me.
I hope not.
Some of my colleagues have accused you of everything but abandoning your children to wolves. Do you hate medical research? Spends 69% of its money from NIH on overhead, does it not?
I haven't looked at the latest numbers, but it's definitely in that range.
Yale spends 67.5% on overhead, does it not?
Again, roughly in that range, yes.
So all this money spent on overhead is money that's not being spent on medical research. Is that right? And what we have to do is spend the money on research.
We should. Absolutely.
It's real simple.
I agree with you, Senator, 100%.
And some universities aren't. NIH is not calling them on it. Isn't it a fact that a study showed between 2017 and 2019, auditors found 137 critical trials funded with taxpayer money involving 41,000 kids, and they didn't even report the results? What happened to the money?
Senator, I think that researchers we support have an obligation to share their data publicly with the American people, no matter what the result.
Otherwise, it's wasted.
Yeah.
Hello, Patriots. Welcome back to Signal 76. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that should outrage every single one of you who cares about how your hard-earned tax dollars are being spent, and more importantly, how they're not being spent on what truly matters. We're going to pull back the curtain on the National Institutes of Health, an institution touted as the most important biomedical institution in the world, and expose some deeply troubling truths. This isn't just about numbers on a ledger. It's about the very principles of accountability, transparency, and the integrity of our nation's scientific endeavors. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I need you to do something crucial. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and most importantly, stay with me until the very end. Because the insights I'm about to share are absolutely critical for us, the American people, to understand and to act upon. We must defend our traditional principles, our fiscal sanity, and the future of our nation against those who seek to squander our resources and undermine our values.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy.
Doctor, you don't look like Satan to me.
I hope not.
Some of my colleagues have accused you of everything but abandoning your children to wolves. Do you hate medical research?
I've devoted my life to medical research, Senator.
Do you hate the NIH?
I love the NIH. I think I said that in my Senate hearing, my earlier Senate hearing. I think it's the most important biomedical institution in the world.
This budget that we're debating today is the president's budget. When's the last time Congress took a president's budget and enacted it?
You know, the funny thing is, I've gotten to thanks to this process, I've got to talk with all of y'all.
When's the last time that happened?
I can't remember.
It's never happened in the history of ever happened.
I mean, everyone has strong opinions about what should happen, and Congress gets to have a say, and that's a good thing.
There's some changes that need to be made at the NIH, aren't there?
There are.
Okay. If I'm the president of a university, and I came to you at NIH and said, I need $10 million to research a cure for nephritis. And I took that $10 million and spent $5 million of it renovating the vice provost home. That would be morally repugnant, wouldn't it?
It would.
If I were a college president and I came to NIH and asked for $20 million to research a cure for dementia, and I took $5 million of that and used it to buy a yacht for my university, that would be morally repugnant, wouldn't it?
That would, and no, that's not.
And that's happened before, hasn't it?
That's not hypothetical, alas.
And there's been a lot of talk about the difference between direct costs, spending the money, for example, on researching cures for nephritis, and indirect costs, overhead. Harvard, for example, with a $53 billion endowment, spends 69% of its money from NIH on overhead, does it not?
I haven't looked at the latest numbers, but it's definitely in that range.
Yale spends 67.5% on overhead, does it not?
Again, roughly in that range, yes.
So all this money spent on overhead is money that's not being spent on medical research, is that right?
Well, it's for fixed costs of like lab space and things, but also sometimes for other things. So it's some of it's absolutely necessary.
Well, if I'm the Gates Foundation and I came to the NIH and said, I don't want money, I want to give you money. I want to give you $100 billion.
Yeah.
But you can't spend more than 10% on overhead. Would the NIH turn it down?
I wouldn't turn it down, no. In fact, I think that Gates Foundation overhead rates are roughly, again, in that range, 10 to 15%.
The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation limits overhead to 15%, does it not?
That's what I understand, something like that.
Now, I want you to think in terms of the American people and the importance of medical research. What do you think is more important? And we have finite resources. Okay, and I support giving resources to NIH. I think NIH does breathtakingly innovative work. But if you ask American people, would you rather give money to research cerebrovascular disease, or would you rather give $142,000 to the Seattle Children's Hospital to study how to use telehealth to improve access to gender-affirming care? What do you think the American people would say?
Senator, the NIH should be a non-political organization, non-ideological, addressing the health needs of the American people.
But yet, the NIH also spent $120,000 in a grant to, quote, develop 3D avatars that help people work through gender dysphoria, end quote. Did it not?
It did.
And the NIH also spent $2,368,492, gave it to Brown University to study, quote, improving mental health among the LGBTQ community impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Did it not?
I think it did. Although I have to say that we
Do you
should...
think that's more important than studying chronic lower respiratory disease?
I mean, I think we should address the real health needs of Americans, not divide Americans into that we have to take into account the real differences in in the biology of people. But when we do that, we should do it in a way that really addresses their actual health needs. Not
I'm running out of time. What we have to do is spend the money on research.
We should. Absolutely.
It's real simple.
I agree with you, Senator, 100%.
And some universities aren't, and NIH is not calling them on it. Isn't it a fact that a study showed between 2017 and 2019, auditors found 137 critical trials funded with taxpayer money involving 41,000 kids, and they didn't even report the results? What happened to the money?
Senator, I think that researchers we support have an obligation to share their data publicly with the American people, no matter what the result.
Otherwise, it's wasted.
Yeah, agree.
All you want to do is fix NIH, don't you?
I do. I want to fix all those problems, Senator.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about the NIH. We're told it's the pinnacle of biomedical research, a beacon of hope for medical breakthroughs. And while I absolutely believe in the fundamental mission of medical research, the pursuit of cures, the eradication of diseases, the advancement of human health, what we're seeing with the NIH, particularly when you look at how our major universities are siphoning off funds, is nothing short of scandalous. We're talking about institutions like Harvard and Yale, titans of academia with endowments in the billions of dollars. They're spending an astounding 67 to 69% of NIH grants on overhead costs. Let that sink in for a moment, patriots. Nearly 70% of the money intended for direct medical research, for finding cures, for saving lives, for developing new treatments, is being eaten up by administrative bloat, by the light bills and the fancy offices, by the layers of bureaucracy that proliferate within these elite universities. This isn't just inefficiency. This is a profound betrayal of the public trust. It's a blatant disregard for the very purpose of these grants, a direct affront to every hardworking American who contributes to this nation's prosperity. This is money that could be funding breakthrough cancer research, accelerating Alzheimer's cures, or developing more effective treatments for chronic pain that plagues millions. Instead, it's vanishing into the black hole of academic administration. Consider this in stark contrast to private foundations. Organizations like the Gates Foundation and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, while I may not agree with all their initiatives or their broader ideological stances, at least have the decency and, frankly, the common sense to limit their overhead to a mere 10 to 15%. That's a massive, a truly colossal difference. That means more money going directly to research, more actual scientific progress, more tangible results for the American people, faster. Why is it that our esteemed universities, supposedly paragons of higher learning, intellectual rigor, and unimpeachable integrity, are so much worse, so profoundly incompetent at managing these funds than private entities? It points to a systemic problem, a deeply ingrained culture of entitlement, unchecked spending, and frankly, a lack of accountability within these institutions that needs to be rooted out, exposed, and ultimately dismantled. This isn't just about bad management. It's about a fundamental disrespect for the taxpayer and the critical mission of medical research. And then we get to the accusations, the hypothetical examples presented by Senator Kennedy. Bless his heart. He didn't pull any punches, did he? He spoke about universities potentially using NIH grants for renovating luxurious homes or buying yachts. While those might seem like extreme, almost cartoonish examples, the witness, under oath, agreed that such actions would be morally repugnant. And yet, patriots, what's the practical difference, the moral distinction between outright buying a yacht and spending 69% of a research grant on overhead that doesn't directly advance medical science? It's all money diverted from its intended, life-saving purpose. It's all a form of misuse, plain and simple, dressed up in the veneer of academic respectability. We need to demand a forensic audit of these university expenditures. We need to know, down to the last penny, exactly where every single one of those overhead dollars is truly going. Is it going to exorbitant, seven-figure salaries for administrators who produce little tangible output? Is it going to lavish, unnecessary campus improvements that have absolutely nothing to do with groundbreaking medical research? Is it going to funding departments that push radical, divisive ideologies instead of scientific discovery? We, the taxpayers, the ones who fund this entire enterprise, deserve clear, unambiguous, and transparent answers. Anything less is a cover-up. And then we get to the priorities. Oh, the priorities of the NIH. This, patriots, is where the rubber truly meets the road, where the ideological capture of our institutions becomes glaringly apparent. When Senator Kennedy brought up studies funded by the NIH like a staggering $142,000 for telehealth gender-affirming care access and another $120,000 for 3D avatars for gender dysphoria, I nearly fell out of my chair. My blood pressure, frankly, spiked. Now, let me be clear. I am not here to deny anyone their personal choices or to diminish individual experiences. But I have to ask, with every fiber of my patriotic being, are these truly the most pressing life or death health needs of the American people? Are these the priorities that warrant hundreds of thousands, indeed millions, of our precious tax dollars when we have pressing, widespread public health crises like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and chronic respiratory illnesses that plague millions of our citizens, impacting families, livelihoods, and the very fabric of our society? We heard about over $2.3 million. Let me repeat that. Over $2 million spent on a Brown University study about LGBTQ mental health during COVID-19. Again, I ask, is this where our research dollars should be primarily focused? When we have millions of Americans suffering from chronic respiratory disease, a condition that kills and debilitates, that has a tangible, measurable, and devastating impact on our economy and our daily lives? This isn't about being insensitive. It's about being responsible stewards of taxpayer money and focusing on the greatest good for the greatest number. It's about prioritizing actual physical health and well-being over trendy, politically charged social agendas. We need to ensure that the NIH remains non-political and non-ideological, as the witness themselves affirmed. It needs to focus on actual health needs, on scientific discovery, on tangible medical breakthroughs, not on pushing divisive, niche agendas that are questionable at best and utterly wasteful at worst. This is the NIH, not a political advocacy group. Furthermore, and this is truly an egregious offense against transparency and public trust, the issue of unreported trial results is an absolute disgrace. Auditors found 137 critical trials between 2017 and 2019 involving a staggering 41,000 children, where the results were never reported to the very taxpayers who funded them. Think about that for a moment, patriots. 41,000 children involved in studies, funded by your money, and the results of those studies just vanished. This is an outrage of monumental proportions. If you're going to take our money to conduct research, you have a moral, an ethical, and indeed a legal obligation to report the results, regardless of whether they're positive, negative, or inconclusive. That data, even if it doesn't confirm a hypothesis, is still valuable. It helps inform future research, prevents wasted efforts, and ensures transparency. When results are hidden, when data disappears into the ether, it begs the most serious and uncomfortable questions. What are they trying to conceal? Is it incompetence on a grand scale? Is it a desire to manipulate data to fit a predetermined narrative? Is it to hide failures and continue securing funding? Regardless, it's a profound breach of trust and a catastrophic waste of public funds. Both parties, remarkably, agreed that researchers have an obligation to publicly share all results, or the funding is wasted. And yet, this is happening right under our noses. This isn't just about accountability. It's about the fundamental integrity of the scientific process itself, which is supposed to be based on open inquiry and verifiable results. When that process is corrupted, we all suffer. The witness, under pressure, committed to fixing these identified problems, and while I cautiously hope that they follow through, my experience with government bureaucracy tells me we cannot simply take them at their word. We, the American people, cannot afford to be complacent. We need to hold their feet to the fire relentlessly. We need to demand real, tangible reform, not just empty promises. We need to see concrete actions that demonstrably reduce overhead, that definitively prioritize truly critical, life-saving medical research, and that ensure full, unadulterated transparency of all trial results, regardless of the outcome. This isn't about defunding the NIH, which would be a reckless act that harms genuine medical progress. It's about reforming it, purifying it, cleansing it of its ideological capture and bureaucratic bloat, and ensuring it serves the American people as it was truly intended. We need an NIH that is laser-focused on curing diseases, on extending healthy lifespans, not on funding questionable social experiments or lining the pockets of unaccountable university administrators and their sprawling, self-serving bureaucracies. This, patriots, is more than just a debate about government spending. This is a battle for the soul of our scientific institutions, for the responsible use of our collective tax dollars, and for the very future of medical innovation in this nation. It's a battle that every true patriot must engage in. Do not sit silently. Share this video with everyone you know. Talk about these issues at your dinner tables, in your churches, in your communities, and demand accountability from your elected officials, from your senators, from your representatives. Call their offices, write them letters, show up at town halls. Let them know that you are watching, that you are informed, and that you will not tolerate this flagrant disregard for our values and our resources. We are the guardians of this republic, and we will not stand idly by while our resources are squandered, while our scientific integrity is compromised, and while our traditional principles are eroded by those who would rather play political games than save lives. Stay strong, stay vigilant, stay informed, and never, ever stop fighting for what is right. God bless you, and God bless America.